Utaniweza kwetu.
Tucheze football. Basi niende kucheza ball.
Okay, so I believe we can go ahead and start. 50 something is a good number to start with. So, welcome to another Thursday mentorship session. I hope you're doing well. I hope the week is treating you well. For those who started the new May cohort, I hope you've adapted and you're enjoying the classes. For the ABC students, I hope you're also well and the rest. So, karibuni sana to this mentorship session. My name is Hope and I'll be the one hosting tonight. So, last week we had a feel of just how to set a foundation or how to position yourself for opportunities in cybersecurity by having a speaker who talked to us on how to make or break it into cybersecurity. So Karim really did a good job in just helping us understand branding, what to look for, networking. Kindly mute as you join. Networking and so on and so on. So today we'll be looking at something else that is really important in laying the foundation for a cybersecurity professional or an IT professional in general. We'll be talking about network fundamentals or the basics of networks and just understanding what that entails and what you should know as you are starting your career in cybersecurity or transitioning into it, or even just reminding yourself of certain things. So, with us is Christopher Kamau, who is a speaker who will be taking us through this. He has extensive experience as a network administrator and is currently working in Riara as a network admin. So, karibu sana Christopher to the Cyber Shujaa session, and we look forward to know more about what you do and exactly how to or what to understand when it comes to network basics. So, hi, Christopher. Feel very welcomed.
All right. Thank you, Hope, for the brief introduction. As you said, I work as a network admin, and I hope you guys can hear me.
Yes, you can.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. So, she said I have experience as a network administrator. I've worked in both the education sector and the ISP sector, and at some point I worked in the server sector. So today I'll be taking through the network basics, just a basic overview. Feel free to stop me at any time and ask for a question. Always want to watch out. Okay, just hold up as I get my slides ready. All right. Okay, as I said again, my name is Christopher Kamau, current network administrator at Riara University. So many people ask like, why learn networking? Okay. So the first thing is I'll tell you is that it's the backbone of almost everything IT, and specifically for cybersecurity. So the first thing I'll go through is it's without the cloud, without networking, there's no cloud. In IT, we usually say cloud is just another person's computer. So without the connection to the other person's computers, you can't get the cloud services. The other thing is, I said again, security. You need the basics to know what to protect and what you can be able to allow through a network. Then the last one to surprise you probably is AI, because without you having an AI in a server and nobody to be able to access the resources, means nothing to everyone. Okay, so with that knowledge, you can be able to now start a career path. So one of the career paths will be a cloud engineer. The other one would be cybersecurity experts. I think that's what you guys are measuring in. The other one would be a system administrator, because I don't think there's any system administrator who doesn't know the basics of networking. It's mandatory. Then lastly, you become what I usually do as a network administrator. So I'll take you through maybe the types of networks that we usually have. The first one would be simple one, maybe a connection between your phone and your Bluetooth device, which is usually called a personal area network. Okay, that's the first one. Then the next thing, let's say you, your brother, or your sister, or maybe even your mom. Uh, if you connect it to the same Wi-Fi network, what you get is a local area network. Okay, this entails, like for example, in an office, a small office, there's a LAN. Even in an organization, your school, everything has a LAN network. Okay. The next one will be what happens when you have your LAN network, maybe where I stay, and then I add another LAN network. Let's say my neighbor's network, or maybe another school's network. What you usually get in the same area, what you usually get is a metropolitan area network, called a metropolitan area network. Okay. All right. Any question after that if I'm going too fast? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Right. So what happens when two metropolitan area networks join together? What we usually get is a wide area network, or ideally the internet. So that's when we'll be able to access movies from America, or maybe access Twitter from wherever the servers are. So yeah, that's basically the types of network we usually have in the world. Okay. So now I'll cover some networking devices that you will mostly encounter in the industry. So the outdated ones are, for example, the hubs, the repeaters, switches, and modems. Hubs, repeaters, and modems are rarely used nowadays. But what you'll find almost everywhere is a switch, a router, an access point, and a firewall. Those ones are always there. Especially the switches, you interact them most of the time. But I think for you guys, probably the firewall, but not necessarily as much, maybe to just monitor it. Okay. So now let's dive in onto the functions of these devices. Okay. So let's give an example of how you get, I can cover that in a bit. So we have one is data forwarding, the other one is IP assignment, the other one is network segmentation. So these ones are usually managed by the ones I mentioned earlier, the switches, the routers, and the firewall. Okay, because we have some firewalls that act as routers and others act as firewalls. Okay, so for them to be connected together, there's something called network topologies. Okay, so we have the bus topology, star topology, ring topology, mesh topology, and the hybrid one. The hybrid one is just a mix of any of the other four. But mostly nowadays, most organizations use a star topology because it has only maybe one point of failure and it's easy to manage, and you're able to troubleshoot a network easily. Okay. All right. Then I'll cover now the next bit, which is what IP addressing. Now, what is an IP address? An IP address is like a name for a device. So, example, if you check on your phone right now, I think for people with maybe a laptop, if you go in there and type, you open command prompt and then type ipconfig, you'll be able to find out the IP address for your machine. Okay. And what maybe would make things interesting is that if you were to go to your browser right now and type what's my IP, you'll get a public IP address. Okay. That will be the one that identifies you to the entire World Wide Web, www, that one. So that will be what will identify you to the internet. Then that's the IP that's given to your router. Without that, you can't be able to access the internet. That's a problem when you disconnect your router cable, you find yourself has no internet. That's because the router doesn't have an IP, which is a public, give you internet. For the private IP, they're usually in your network, your local area network, the one I talked about earlier. That's the one you're finding on your machines, on your phones, sometimes on your smart screens. So that's the difference between a public and a private IP. Now we have two versions. We have the IPv4, which are 32 bits, meaning like they have 32 bits. That is 8 digits. If I'm 32 bits, 8 bits per IP. I'll show you an example. For the IPv6, there are 128 bits. They are in almost infinite, but for the IPv4, they are usually limited. That's why we have public IPs and private IPs. Okay. So now, a question you will ask for yourself. The next thing you need that's the most important. The most thing that's most important is what you call subnetting. Okay. The use of subnetting is to isolate networks. This will come important to you because you might need to separate segregate your network if in the workplace or even in your house if you want to. Because I mean, you can to separate. Maybe you want a network for guests where people can come and you limit the resources or maybe their time there. You can say maybe after 5 the network is blocked. You can also have it maybe for if you work in IT, your IT admin need maybe a subnet where you are not blocked from most of the sites because you need them for research or maybe for exploring things. And then maybe you have a network for the HR, the finance department is usually very, very sensitive. So you have to separate them into their own network and be able to have their own. So I've shown an example of what subnetting helps people do. So I'll cover more in detail when you are talking about VLANs in a few minutes. Okay. So I know subnetting becomes a bit difficult, especially because you are told to calculate a bit so that you can be able to know like how many usable IPs are in there, how many usable IPs are in the network. Okay. So I have a shortcut that I usually use, and that is and for that to work, you have to have the CIDR. That is maybe you see an IP is written 192.164.0.1/24. That's the CIDR, the /24. This one is very important. If you have that, if you want to calculate the number of IPs in that network, you will take, let's say, you'll take 32 minus that 24. If you get 8, then you raise 2 raised to 8, then minus 2, and then you get the total number of IPs. That usually helps a lot, and you're able to get it helps you in identifying how many IPs you can use in a network. Now, for most organizations, the most IPs that's from the ISP and education sector I've experienced, you only experience 3 types. You have this one, the /24, which has 254. Most networks are, okay, Mary? Mary, I can see your hand is up.
Saying,
yes.
Hello?
Hello, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm requesting for you to repeat the calculation part for
the calculation part.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, all right. So if you have the CIDR, you take 32, the number 32, minus the CIDR given, for example, 25. So you take 32 minus 25. That will give you 7. Then you take 2 raised to 7. After you take that number, that will be around 128. Then you minus 2, 1 for the network address and 1 for the broadcast address. And then from that, you'll be able to get the number of IPs you can use in that network.
Okay, thank you.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. Any other question? Okay. Then I'll continue. So, so the most network you'll find in organization is a /24. That will give the 254 IPs. You'll get a /16. That one gives more IPs and allows for student networks or maybe a place where you have so many people. That's what you give them. And a /30 is usually used by ISPs mostly because you need something called a point-to-point for them to be able to get internet. And like I said earlier, public IP addresses are very limited. So that's why we have people use them sparingly. Okay, right. All right. The next thing I'll be covering now from that, since you know how to create your own network, now you can have maybe one port having, you can have one switch having multiple networks, what you call multiple LANs to be specific, what you call virtual LANs. So you can assign, like I said earlier, for example, you have a /24 example, 172.16.7.1/24. That's the finance department. And then you call it maybe VLAN 2. And then you have a 173.15.0.1 slash, let's say since it's the IT team, you do maybe /28. You don't need a lot of IPs. And then you name it IT VLAN 3. So with this one, you should be able to assign security features based on that VLAN. So this one also helps in a switch, identifying where traffic needs to move from this place to this place, so that you don't have people accessing resources they're not supposed to. That's why I said example. You are working IT, you're a network admin, or maybe you're a cybersecurity. You need an open port where you can be able to explore and maybe challenge your security, but you don't need to expose the entire network because that will bring danger to your entire users. So you have maybe your own VLAN set aside and you're able to explore with the different things you want. Okay. And you're also able to block and able to control. Then it is always about control and make sure maybe hacks are not easily accessible using a certain network. For example, I guess Wi-Fi, for me, student Wi-Fi, since students are very, very explorative. So you have to give them places where they can't be able to go to, and also helps you maintain your bandwidth, right? So another use for virtual LAN is that it helps you manage costs, for example. So what I have on the farthest left is a router that broadcasts two sets of networks. Yeah? Then I had to add two use switches since each port can carry its own network. And then from that, I give it to a machine. So as you can see, it is kind of costly since switches are expensive. So this, to eliminate that, we usually go to having VLAN. Since as you can see, you can use the same switch, two different ports, but each port has a different network to serve a different machine. And from that, you can assign any ports, any VLAN, and that's the only VLAN that will work there. Most VLANs we have voice VLAN, virtual LANs, we have IT LANs like I mentioned before. So each one has its function and each one can be limited to whatever you want as the network admin. The next thing, I'll just show you a physical example of a switch. Most of them look like this. Those are enterprise switches. Okay. Then I want to talk briefly about this. I know most of you have done the OSI model, but what I'll be focusing on is the physical layer, the data link layer, and the network layer. So we have the physical layer is basically the Wi-Fi you're connected to, the cable, the Ethernet cable, maybe the fiber cable if you have a machine like that. The data link layer is your switch, which one now, if you are inside a network, the same network need to access resources to the same place. That's where usually switching is done. And then we have the network layer. This one is either done by a switch, a router, or a layer 3 switch. Okay, so this one can either lead to the internet or now to the firewall and then return to the internet. Okay, so please remember the layer 2 and the layer 3, the data link layer and the network layer. Okay. So the layer 2 switches are MAC based. For example, every device has a MAC address. So when it's sending data to a certain, request to send, a request maybe will be googling, let's say for example, googling what's a bank I? That's where it leads to. That request you put is what is tied to. That's what when it comes back with the response, it comes with your MAC address. The layer 3 switches mostly support they do routing capabilities, like they're able to go to the internet. That's number one. Number two, they're able to do what we call the VLAN support. The VLAN support, the QoS, everything is on the layer 3 switches. And this is what is mostly used by organizations. And most organizations use either Cisco switch, and nowadays they're switching to a Huawei switch. But mostly usually rely on a Cisco switch is tried and tested. Okay. The next thing will be the firewall. The firewall is like it's like your antivirus but for your network. Okay. So you can be able to program it through giving it rules, maybe to allow a port or a certain IP address from either accessing things outside or inside. You can be able to block an IP not being able to be accessed from outside, a URL. So it depends on how you set up your policies or how you set up your rules. The top two, I would say, are a Fortinet and Checkpoint firewall. Those are the most usually industry standard, the best one. Okay. So since you set up your entire network from how I've explained, from your device to your switch to your router to your firewall, the next thing will be maybe to cover what kind of common network attacks usually face. Okay. So we have DOS or DDoS. So a DOS is it's a distributed denial of service attack. That means like I send so many requests to your website or to your network, you're not able to fake one. For example, I think you had about it was an M-Pesa attack where you send so many requests that the genuine request is even rejected. So it's usually done by bots or computer that are set to program. Okay. The other one is the man in the middle. I think this is just easy. It's where someone just hijacks your information, and for example, I can set a phishing link, where a phishing link where you click, if you hover on it, maybe I back and say Netflix.com. But ideally, behind when you put on Netflix.com, the link inside doesn't send to Netflix. It sends to a bogus site that looks exactly like Netflix. Then when you enter your details, everything, when you click login, it says refresh, but when you click login, it takes you now to the actual Netflix site, and now you're able to log in. But what you've forgotten is that you've left your credentials and everything with this other person. So that's what basically a man in the middle means. Okay. The ARP spoofing, so that's address resolution protocol spoofing. This one just tricks you, just a trick by sending data to the attacker by faking ARP messages. Okay. The other one is DNS poisoning. It almost works like a phishing thing, but it just redirect your, maybe for you to have internet. I forgot to mention, you can have an IP, you can have a subnet mask, but if you don't have a DNS, you can have a route that is, for example, most routers are usually 172.16.0.1. But then if you don't have a DNS, you can't be able to access most of the internet, since DNS servers are the ones that have most of the resources. So what I can do with DNS provisioning is direct you to the wrong DNS server. That's what it means. Okay. Then packet sniffing just really means it captures network traffic to steal sensitive or unencrypted data. That's why I usually insist on every project you're doing. If you have a login, always encrypt your password and username. Okay. Then the other one is it's more of social engineering, but rogue access points, where maybe if I go to Java, I decide I'm gonna have a Wi-Fi called maybe Java Internet. I'm a Java Wi-Fi, or something similar to the Wi-Fi that's in the cafe. So when users come in, they just see the Wi-Fi is either open or maybe they know the password, and then they just log in, and then they just monitor your traffic and everything, your passwords, everything you're able to steal. This is usually can be also done by a Wireshark, a small application that's usually found. Okay, right. Any question there? All right, I will continue.
Question.
Okay, all right. The next will be the tools. The tools usually used. One, the ping. A ping is like your best friend because a ping helps you. Did I see a hand up for a question? All right, I'll continue. Uh, the next one you need for diagnosis. A ping. A ping is like finding out if your device is up. It's like, hey, what's up? If you get a yes, you get a ping back. If no, you know your device is down. A trace route is like finding out how you go from maybe your computer to Google. It shows you the where you went from your machine to your switch to your router, and then now to google.com. Okay. Then to monitor packets, we have Wireshark, TCP dump. These are port scanners are usually to maybe to find what's happening in that port. So these are the network mapping school. You have the NetDiscover, ZenMap, and then the last thing would be the simulation lab. So that would be, I think most of you have interacted with the Cisco Packet Tracer. Usually, I think you just need to set up an account. That's how you usually build your logical network before actually launching it. Since you can be able to configure everything and then just copy the config to your real device, and then it just works like that. Not 100% because technology is technology, but you're able to logically build a network from there. Okay. Any question up to that? Okay. The next one will be the certifications that you will probably need when you're starting off as a network engineer. These are some of them. You can take note of them, but the most basic one will be a Cisco CCNA, since most organizations have Cisco CCNAs. The ones that are usually coming up is the AWS. Sorry, the AWS is very important. It's coming up. It's an upcoming industry since they are bringing about the cloud computing and cloud engineering. The Microtic certification, this one usually used by most ISPs because one, it's affordable, and two, it does basically what a Cisco switch does and but better. Then for your firewalls, like I recommended, the Fortinet firewall certification and the Checkpoint firewall certification. They're a bit pricey, but they work the best. They are the most high end. Okay, all right. That will be the end of my presentation. If you have any question, this will be the time.
Yes, Mr. Kamau.
Yes.
I have a question. Hey, you really moved so fast. I don't know. I hope you'll share this presentation later because I need to maybe go through it again so that I can grasp the concept that you just talked about. But my
No
question
problem.
goes directly to VLANs.
Yes,
I work in
VLAN.
an environment. Yes, I work in an environment where we adopted wireless networks.
Uh-huh.
And I wonder if you could explain a bit how we apply VLANs in such an environment? Because maybe I missed on something, but all along I've thought that VLANs, we normally apply VLANs where we use the Ethernet technology. But now, since you discussed, maybe you could make a clarification or discuss a bit about it, how we can apply these VLANs in a wireless network environment.
All right. Okay. Let me ask you a question. Yeah. If you have you checked the IP addresses for the different VLANs?
From
Sorry, for the different wireless networks. Have you checked the IP addresses?
no.
No. Okay. All right. Just 1 second. Let me do. So I'm sharing. Right. All right. Let's say, for example, you have let's say Shuja. Let's say you have Shuja guest Wi-Fi, right?
Yeah.
Guest Wi-Fi. Then you have they get an IP of let's say 192.168.0.2.1/24, right? Then we have, let's say, Shuja IT. I don't know, are you guys able to view it properly?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's say they have a network of 192.168.1.1/24. Okay. So let's name this network the Shuja Wi-Fi. Let's name it VLAN 2. Okay. Then this one we name it VLAN 3. Okay. So these two are two different networks. Okay. By different networks, I mean they are logical but different networks. Yes, they're in the wireless. You're able to broadcast them with the different IPs, but the two of them are different networks. So on your firewall or on your router, you can be able to give privileges to this VLAN 3 that are not present in VLAN 2. Okay. Am I explaining? Did I get your question right?
Yeah, you are explaining right, eh?
So now that's the essence of a VLAN. You have virtual LAN. You're able to create different networks, no matter, even if you have one device, you don't need every port to have a different VLAN. You can even use it even on the wireless, because when you're setting up your wireless controller, wireless controller, you're able to define the different each SSID, the SSID being the Shuja IT, to have VLAN. Maybe you can decide to be VLAN 2 or maybe to be VLAN 3. You don't have to have everyone being on the same network. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So you can adapt. That's how you can adapt VLANs for your wireless network.
So I can adapt a VLAN for each wireless network, maybe because I have several access points, almost like 10 of them.
Yes.
So each I can make it a VLAN on its own, right?
You want to make what you usually do. Do you have a wireless controller with you?
Yes, not here with me, but in my offices.
Yeah, but on your workplaces, you have a wireless controller. So on the wireless controller, even if you have you always control on that wireless controller. So if you set up different SSIDs and give each SSID VLAN, a different VLAN for each SSID, you should be able to give every SSID or every network there different privileges based on the rules you've set. And for you to place them on the VLAN, you have to also create them on the layer 3 switch or on your router.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Welcome. Right, I'm seeing another hand up. That will be Major John.
Okay, thank you very much. So my question was concerning the subnet. That area of subnet.
Yes, subnet.
Yeah, you mentioned the formula which I am not really familiar with. Maybe in that not but
Sorry?
you can write that formula so that
I write it.
Yeah.
On the relay. All right, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. All right, so we have these are the, so you have 2 raised to 2. Let me just write 2 raised to n. Okay. Then n being your CIDR. All right. Do you know what the CIDR is? Major John?
Yes, I'm with you. I've just muted to.
All right, okay. Then 2 raised to n being the 32 minus the CIDR, then minus 2 afterwards. Okay. So for example, in this scenario where we have this 24 slash 24 CIDR, it would be 32 minus 8, which is equals to 32 minus 24, which is equals to 8. And then we will take 2 raised to 8 raised to 8, which will be 256. And then we take the 256 minus 2, which is equals to 254. This would mean reminiscing the two being the network IP and the broadcast. Okay, is that clear enough?
Yeah, it makes sense. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's way easier than doing the usually used to do 2 divide by this, divide by this. It was a lot of work.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Any other question?
Hello, Kamau.
Yes, hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Is it possible to subnet further?
Subnet further in what way?
Like after subnetting a given IP address, you subnet it further.
Yes, you can. You can. You should be able to. For example, you are able to. I can subnet further, and I can also be able to join networks. For example, I can be able to join. For these two. If I wanted to get these two, I can start with our 92.16.160. Can do our 92.0.0.0 slash 23. This one can be subdivided into our 92.168.0.1 slash 24, and also the 1.1 slash 192.168.0.1 slash 24, which also this can be divided to again. You can do another division to 192.168.1.0, sorry, that may be 8 slash 28. You can be able to subdivide because everything stems from one network and you can go reducing. And with this, it goes reducing the number of IPs you can be able to use in that network. Have I answered your question?
Sure.
Yes.
Then I have another question.
No problem.
Yeah, no, I don't understand better how this internet works. So does it mean when the undersea cables get damaged, we lose
One of them?
internet? I mean, the undersea cables, when they
Yes.
get damaged, do
Yes.
we lose the internet totally?
If it's when you're doing networks, there's a basic practice what we call redundancy. So if you're doing a connection maybe to Kenya, for example, that goes through in the Indian Ocean, ideally you're supposed to do one that maybe can, instead of going through the South Africa route, it goes through maybe the Somalia route. That's the essence of redundancy. So when the one in South Africa gets damaged, the one in Somalia takes over and network resumes as probably. That's why we lost internet during that time. Okay. But that only applies to services that are trying to access outside the country. That's why we lost most of the internet.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. Any other question? All right, I'm seeing Adrian.
Yes.
Yes, hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Okay, let's have.
I think there are two. Yeah, there are two Adrians. So we can have Isinta and then the other Adrian.
Sorry. Yes. So my question was, since you are a network administrator, do you
Yes.
also have a role for a system administrator, and how do they overlap if you do both roles or something of the sort?
All right, okay, that's a very good question. Yes, we do have a system administrator in our school. So my role would be to make sure his systems are connected to the internet and are allowed to access the certain services that are needed. And the people who are using them are the only ones who are able to get them. His role would be to manage the system that it doesn't go down, maybe a database error or the application has imeanguka. That's his role. And to make sure the ports are provided are the ones he has configured on the system. That's how we usually work together. Or if I was to do both, that's how it would actually work.
Okay.
Yes.
I think I understand better now the rules.
All right. Okay. Adrian now.
okay, hi.
Hello.
Are you able to hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so my query was like, for instance, in an organization where you doesn't have maybe the capability of buying a physical firewall.
Yes.
And maybe you've been provided with a ISP link, and so with you, your infrastructure is just maybe the access points, the controllers, and the switches. So, which other open source method can you use to act as a let's say a firewall and a router, so that maybe if you want to do the VLANs, you can be able to, in this scenario, let's just use example of Starlink, for instance. Your ISP is Starlink, and then you're having the other physical devices apart from it doesn't have maybe other router, and it doesn't have a firewall.
Okay. So once you see the Starlink itself is a router, it acts as a router. Although it's the only routing capability it has is that one port where you're connecting to the switch. It's still a router. That's what is connecting you to the internet. Now, for the open source software, that would need you. Yes, you don't have the capability of buying a firewall, but you need maybe a desktop or something where you can install things. Maybe like there is open software like pfSense, IPFire, ClearOS. Those ones, but mostly what people use is pfSense. pfSense is very good. It helps with it's very well. You can be able to build it the way you want, and it works well with even with my colleagues in other universities. Usually use pfSense.
Okay.
As
Okay.
for the VLANs, sorry. As for the VLANs, that's the one you were talking about. Okay. As for the VLANs, is it? I would like to pose a question to you. Is it a smart switch or is it a plug and play?
No. This is a highly intelligent switch.
Highly intelligent switch. So all you just need to do.
But it lacks layer 3 capability.
It lacks layer 3 capabilities.
Yeah, sure.
Then if it can't do it, what you will need, you still need a layer 3 switch for you to be able to access VLAN.
How comes? Because you see, let's use this generic switch. Let's say there's this B-Link, for instance.
Yes.
Yeah, 12, 18 or 12 something. So with this, it you see, if you use the management IPs, for instance, and you just configure it, you're able to see whereby you can be able to define the VLANs, and also you trunk. Yeah, so because from my thinking is, if you have, like, let's say the pfSense now, and you define your VLANs and the IPs and you have, let's say, 3 floors, and you have those 3 switches.
Yes.
Can you just define the VLANs and rank those VLANs to all those three switches?
So what you're saying is that you want the VLANs to be per switch or to be per port, or how do you want to run it?
Okay, yeah. For this, the VLANs will be per port.
Per port.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, from my experience, I used a D-Link switch once in an ISP, and we tried to manage it. After I think after 2 days, it failed. It wasn't even doing much. It was only doing maybe PPA connection for maybe like a house. It failed to do the managing bit of the layer 3 switch capabilities. So I would highly recommend you would get either a Huawei or a Cisco. I know Cisco's are pricey, so let me see. A Huawei would work. Or you can alternatively you can get a MikroTik, not a MikroTik switch, a MikroTik router, and then from there you can define the VLANs, and then you can use that. That will be the best second option.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome. All right, we have Michael. Michael Locott. All right, as wait for Michael, let's have Vincent.
Just for anyone who may have mic issues to mention, you can always utilize the Q&A area. So that's available for everyone. Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
When you're applying for a job, let's say as a IT support or IT technician,
yes,
do they always test you on your knowledge of subnetting and VLANs, and how do you handle that?
Okay, it depends. If it's an entry level, they don't really test on the villas, just test you on the basics. For example, do you know how to access like the tools? Do you know how to use ping? Do you know how to use ipconfig? Do you know how to find a DNS? Do you know how to disable a firewall? Do you know how to install? Those are the, for entry level, those are the most basic questions you ask. For me, I usually did them in an exam, not in an interview. You do an exam first and then you go for an interview later. And the interview, after that, the interview is usually a one-on-one. It's not about anything technical since you've already passed the exam. It's more of about how you are as a person. So that will be subnetting. You won't escape it because at some point you'll have to use it when you're trying to monitor your network, seeing what's wrong and everything. But it's not really highly tested because everybody knows, everybody's frustrated with subnetting. That's why it takes a bit of time and experience for you to be able to be comfortable with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Okay. Still waiting for Michael.
Yeah, he's unmuted,
Okay.
but okay.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
All right. Yes.
Okay, hello. Can you
Hello.
hear me, Kamau?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, this is Michael. So my question was on firewall rules and ports.
Yes.
Sometimes you find that a port, like you find that if you try to access a firewall that has a port of 443, it directs you to a port of 8080. So I just want to know on setting of the rules and the port manipulation. I want to know how that is done and how it functions. And also, you find that when you put some rules in the firewall, you find that when you try to access the firewall inside an organization, you can access it through the IP, but when you're outside, you cannot access it. So you're being told that the port is closed or something like that. So I just want to know more about the rules of firewalls and also the port manipulation. Thank you.
All right, welcome. Okay, now for the ports, let me start with the ports on the applications. The ports on the applications are usually set by the system administrator. That's who the ones who decide. Maybe you are used to, maybe sometimes it's hard work when someone is used to, or maybe a machine is used to a port 443, you redirect it to now port 8080, or maybe that's the next available port. That's what they usually do to reduce the hassle. Now, for the rules of how you're able to access something inside an organization and something outside an organization. Let me try to use an example. Okay, when you're inside your house, you can be able to watch TV. You can be able to turn it off, turn it on. When you're outside the house, you can't be able to watch the TV. It's the same rules. When you're inside the organization, you are inside the network. That's how you are able to access the firewall there. But when you go outside the organization and outside the network, you don't have a way to access it. Now, to solve that, there's something we call a VPN, a virtual private network. Now, a VPN mostly we see it on advertisement is used to maybe watch a series, maybe in another country, or maybe get cheaper flights or something like that. That's the likes of Surfshark, in the secure VPN, Express VPN. That's not in a network admin stance. A VPN can be used to access your inside network from when you're at home or when you are maybe at a coffee shop, which I highly do not recommend the coffee shop. So you're given, once, like I said, if you were to go to your browser in your organization and say, what's my IP, you'll get the public IP of your organization. This is where every connection goes through. It doesn't matter where. Now, when you use that IP and then go to there's usually, depends on what you have. There's an application for every firewall that you use to access your organization. So you just input the IP and then the credentials, which are usually given by your network admin again. So with that, you're able now to access things inside the network, that's including your firewall. So first of all, it's the VPN. Then, first of all, it's internet, then internet to VPN, then VPN now to the firewall now. That's how the network works. Have I answered your question?
Yeah, you've answered it. Thank you.
All right. Now, I'm seeing a question. Sorry, Naomi, I've just seen your question. You're asking why 32 and not 64, any other number. 32 because that's the number of total bits in that line. So if you were to check, let me share it. Kidogo. Right. If you even go to if you just type ipconfig, you'll find something either like this, 192.168.0.2558, sorry. Then you get 2255.255.255.0. Then you get the gateway, 192.168.0.1. Okay. So 8 bits we usually talk about is this net mask over here, this net mask ID. That's why we usually go for the 32. That's this total. So now, if you were to do here we have 8 bits here. You have 8 bits here. We have 8 bits here. Then we have 8 bits here. So that's why we use 32 because it's 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8. That's the 32 bits. It's just a calculation of all these bits in total. Okay, Naomi, hope I have answered your question. Then, all right, Joel. Joel, a question as I'm looking through the Q&As.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know how I can frame this question.
Yes.
Like which technology actually is used?
Sorry?
When you find which technology is used, suppose Safaricom connecting with the remote or let us say branch sites. You come across a site is in a remote area where there is no connection to fiber, but they're connecting to the internet. Like which technology do they use?
They use something. That's when you using the. Are you talking about the satellite phones, or are you talking about the network?
I'm talking about the network.
Ile ya simu ya kupiga simu.
Hapana, accessing the internet. Chana na ile ya simu.
Ile una connect kwa unakuwa na wifi kwa nini yako. So
yeah, and then accessing this. Yes.
Sorry, there are 2 ways, and then accessing
the resources at the headquarters. Let's say in Nairobi.
And you are in a remote place. So
yeah, sure.
As much as they would, okay, most masts or like the things you see maybe in Safaricom networks, most of them have fiber connection. If not, there's something we call radius. Let me just get an image. Right, just one sec. All right, okay. So either a fiber or using a connection using radius, things like this. I think most of you use some of these devices to connect to internet in your homes, but there are some on a larger scale, like maybe this one usually transmit a higher bandwidth, and it's usually on what we call line of sight. Like if this one can see another one like exactly like this, they are able to access internet through that wireless communication. That's how you find places like that. That's why if you check on the Safaricom, there are big radios, some of them, and then that they usually go to maybe around 40 kilometers on air, which is a very long distance, and that's how they are able to access internet without having the need for a fiber cable. Does that answer your question?
Sure, thank you.
All right, welcome. All right, someone?
Thank you. I would like to give a scenario. We have some long range and short range these access points, and you'll find a user with a laptop near an access point, but his laptop is either connected to a long range laptop access point that is very, very far. How do you sort that?
You should be able to do something we call CapWap. CapWap is like putting your access point in a group where it hands over something called handshake. Actually, that's the word. It does a handshake. It hands over the IP hands over to another IP that's usually closer to the user. That's how you handle that situation.
You have called CapWap. That works in Unify access points.
Yeah, it should be able to work on Unify unless they stopped it. It's just supposed to work in Unify. Hello, someone? Answer the question?
Yes. I was just looking for the spelling. CapWork, CAPWORK.
No, CapWap. CAPWAP.
Oh, WAP. Thank you.
Yes. All right.
So kindly let's have Joel as the last question because of time. And then unless there's any other, we can give Joel and maybe one more chance to someone else who may have a question, and then we wrap up. So Joel, go ahead.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Joel.
Okay, I just have some 4 questions.
Yes.
Okay, the first question is about, you can just briefly give us your journey to networking, like how you started to where you've reached. Then secondly, you can share with us some of the certifications you've taken for the same role. Third, you'll find that, for example, for somebody getting into tech, you'll find that for most roles, they need experience. They need somebody who has at least had some experience. So looking at networking, networking may not be something like, for example, web development or data analysis, whereby you have maybe done some projects, then secured them maybe in GitHub or something to showcase. So how did you manage to get in? Because, for most roles, they need that experience. And, also bearing in mind, sometimes you may not get opportunities to, let's say, do voluntary roles in IT because of things like sensitive data and so on. Then the last question is, have you ever had maybe some hacking experience as a network engineer, and how did you go about it? Maybe let's say some people tried hacking your networks, and how do you maneuver through the situation? Yeah,
All right.
thank
Okay.
you.
So, all right. Welcome. All right. Now, I think I'll cover for the journey and how I got the experience in one bit. So, I started at a place we call Kenya Web. It does website hosting and what's this thing called? Website hosting and email managing. I think it was a long time ago. So that's where my journey started. I got lucky, it was an attachment position. So I got there. What I can always say ni jitume when you are somewhere. It doesn't matter where. Jitume. Because from that place, it lasted like around, I think, because the internship usually 3 months. They extended my contract to 6 months. And due to that, I was able to get an opportunity. My boss, who was my desk supervisor, saw an opportunity in another company and sent me there. Now, for that place where you're saying it's usually sensitive, the best place to gain experience is always a startup. Startups are the best place to get experience because it's hectic, it sucks. You go through a lot. Sometimes you even go to home at midnight. I think it was during COVID where we even had to get letters to show that we actually essential services. So that's how I got my second job at an internet company. That's where I gained most of my experience into network. That's why I fell in love with networking because you used to see the network admin then be able to do such cool things. For me, they were very cool. That they are able to configure a router remotely. Sometimes they do something. You have a problem that has clear the entire day. Then he comes just checks at it and then he does it in like 2 seconds and it's done. So that's where, and from that you're able to learn. Most people are not good teachers out there. I won't lie to you. Watu watakutusi, it's not fair, but sometimes it take it as a learning experience. Sometimes you want to sing in a joking way, sometimes not in a joking way. And then don't take everything seriously when you're at work. Sometimes ikutoke, usike kwa roho, eka kwa lungs, because people talk the way they want. So that's how from there then I got into corporate. That's how I became a network admin now from there. Also by referral, because if you are good at what you do, people notice and people take notice and able to refer you to other places. And then from there now, that's how I'm working where I am today. And of course, I passed the interview. Yeah, it was competitive. I was number 2, but the first guy didn't show up, so that's why I got selected. So yes, that's the journey and that's my experience. For the certifications, it's CCNA. I did CCNA 1 and 2. And then now I'm currently doing IBM. And what I want to do next is the checkpoint certification. So yes, that certification. And again, I repeat, always have the will to learn. Because most of the things I know how to do, I did not get them from a textbook or from a certification. I got them from actually practicing. You go, like I said, the Cisco Lab, very helpful. You can build an entire network and see if it functions. If you're able to send a message from computer A to maybe computer B, which is like 5 networks away. If you're able to communicate through that, it gives you the bit of confidence and the bit of courage to be able to do what you do. So that's two. That's how I got the journey and experience. And from the hacking experience, fortunately, I haven't experienced one, or if they tried, my checkpoint is the firewall I usually use is amazing, so probably blocked it. So yes, that I think answers your full question. Or was there anything around missed, Joy?
No, you answered. Though maybe just to react on one of your responses, you've talked about gaining experiences through startups. But you see, we may have some people who are disadvantaged geographically. Maybe, we may have so many startups in Nairobi, but in other parts of the country, maybe you may not have these startups or these advanced or basically so many institutions whereby you can get your hands dirty. So I don't know, how can somebody who's geographically disadvantaged gain such kind of real world experience?
For that one, I would say start your own. Start your own. Like for example, do you want to, for example, where you live, maybe you can be able to supply internet, right? Or maybe you have internet, but you want to supply to your neighbors, okay? You can start from there. From there, you build your own network. Now, from there, you're able to gain experience. Another one would be if you want to gain, not necessarily, even I'm telling you, even if you're able to get certifications or you're able to want to practice something, there are simulators like everywhere. The simulators online, you can just look for Link simulator helps you to configure a small router. Like simulators help a lot, so that even if you don't have the actual experience of like working somewhere, you can always go to somewhere and say, yes, I don't have experience, but this is what I can do. And then you show them what you can do. Like I said, that Cisco Lab, you can showcase that one. It's enough. And then people will be able to see and judge, and you're able to be asked questions from that. And if you know your stuff, believe me, someone will notice.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much, everyone. Chris, maybe you can just give us your, what do you call them, parting shots before we bring the session to a close.
All right, my parting shot would be practice. Practice makes perfect, and always have an open mind to learning. Yeah, and just know yourself and be courageous. Have the courage to be able to do what you love to do. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, for the extensive view on networking. I think you see those videos you see on YouTube where learn networking in an hour. That was us today. So thank you so much for the extensive view and just having a way to explain these complex terms in a simple way. We truly appreciate. Thank you, everyone, for participating, for being on the call. I hope you've come out with something. I hope even after this, you can take time to just go through. I'll share the presentation slides. So you can take time to go through the slides and internalize on areas that are particularly important to you. Something else I'd like to ask Chris is if he's open for the students to reach out, maybe via LinkedIn or another way. Chris, is that fine?
All right, that's fine. I'll share my LinkedIn through Hope. I hope that's okay.
Okay. So we'd really appreciate. Part of these sessions is also to help you network. Even if we're not in a physical setting, get to know the different people in the industry and also build your network as you build your career while you're doing Cyber Shujaa. So asanteni sana everyone. It's been a lovely session and see you next Thursday. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes, Matthew, is that a question for me? And Anthony?
Sorry, guys. Just accidental. Sorry.
Okay, sawa. I'll go ahead and end the session.